Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, comparing the new Bronco to the new 4Runner to see which one is best. Before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Lerch Miller Ford here in Provo for giving me some time with the Bronco. I'll put a link to their website in the description down below. Let's get right into it. Powering the Bronco is a turbo 2.3 liter 4-cylinder that goes through a 10-speed. Fuel economy is 20 around town, 21 on the highway, with power outputs being 300 horsepower and then 325 pound-feet of torque. Powering the 4Runner is a turbo 2.4 liter 4-cylinder that goes through an 8-speed, so 0.1 liter more, but then 2 gears less. Anyways, 19 around town, 25 on the highway for fuel economy, and then power outputs are 278 horsepower and then 317 pound-feet of torque. Before we move forward with this comparison, I do want to mention if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Now when it comes to front end equipment, you can see that the Bronco has fog lights, tow hooks, got regular headlights as well. And the 4Runner has all of that. The 4Runner also has a massive air dam, and that definitely helps out with fuel economy on the highway a bit with aerodynamic efficiency, but it's hideous. So, boxy versus kind of more of a angular design on the 4Runner. Now with the Bronco, our turn wheel setup is 255 by 70 by 18, whereas the 4Runner is 265 by 70 by 18, so slightly larger tires on the 4Runner. They're both kind of like soft all-terrain tires. Now the 4Runner has these unpainted fender flares. With the Bronco, they're actually painted to match. Get a little Outer Banks badge. Both of these actually have fixed side steps, and this is where I want to mention that they both have independent front suspension and solid rear axles. Here's your side profile with the Bronco, where you can see that cool boxy design, and it's got the hardtop with this one. And then here's the 4Runner, where again you can see it's more angular with the design. Now the 4Runner is kind of more of like a crossover here in the rear, so massive cargo area. You can actually get the 4Runner with a third row with certain packages like the SR5, but the reason why I say crossover is it's just got a regular hatch and it's power. So it's kind of like what you see with most SUVs, and the rear windows also power up and down, which is pretty cool. But I think that the best angle of the 4Runner is actually the rear end. Now the Bronco's kind of old school, like a Wrangler, so there is less storage space overall on the back of the Bronco, and you can see the cage here kind of eats up with some of the space as well. And this is all manual. So you got the spare tire there on the back. The Bronco is a shorter vehicle in overall length compared to the 4Runner, which means the Bronco has better angles, but then the 4Runner has a little bit more cargo space. Now in the back of the 4Runner legroom here is pretty good. We've got vents here in the back, USB ports as well. And then we've got these fancy Soft-Tex seats perforated all down the center portion. And then headroom back here is actually pretty good. Now in the back of the Bronco, legroom is actually pretty similar. And then the seats back here, nice trim overall. And you got good headroom with the boxy design. And there's vents and everything back here too. And let's pop the 4Runner on. See, full digital gauge cluster. Nice trim around the steering wheel. This comes with stuff like adaptive cruise control, lane centering, got volume and voice command controls as well. This also comes with a 360 camera. It has automatic climate, no dual zone, but it does have heated and ventilated seats and a heated steering wheel. Phone charging pad. We've got a traditional 2-wheel drive 2-speed transfer case, multi-terrain select crawl control, rear locking differential. It's got a lot of Toyota's cool off-road tech. Nice trim here on the center console. Camera rear view mirror, and then it has a sunroof up top, and again the rear glass does roll up and down. Now with the Bronco, I do want to mention this one's a 24, but the only difference with 25 is 25 has a full digital gauge cluster and then vents in the rear. That's why I said rear vents if you get a 25 Bronco compared to the 24 4Runner. This has $1,229 for the payload. The 4Runner actually has $895, so the Bronco has more payload. Nice trim around the steering wheel, just like the 4Runner. You still have adaptive cruise control and all that. Let's see if this has a 360 camera. Yep, 360 camera. Just trail turn assist and stability control. No diff locks or anything like that with this particular package. And then you can see here we've got radio controls, climate controls, dual zone climate, heated seats, heated steering wheel. And just like the 4Runner, you just have a traditional 2-speed transfer case. You still have off-road drive modes and everything, and then you got your trail control, which is similar to Toyota's crawl control. All of our window controls here with the mirror adjustment. It's trim. I will say these seats kind of feel a little bit more high quality, but giant sun visors, and then again, it's a convertible. Now the 4Runner's about $56K, whereas the Bronco's about $55K, so they're almost the same price. See which one drives the best. Okay, well, let's drive the Bronco first, and to all the haters, no, I was kidding, not haters. Tell the people, this will drive identical to a 25. Again, I'm just looking at a different gauge cluster. I tried to find a 25 for this comparison, but I could not. Ford still hasn't produced that many 25s yet, at least for Utah it seems like. So it's kind of hard to find them for comparisons. But still, price point is similar. And I think what's more important than comparing gauge clusters is how the vehicles actually drive, because unlike the Wrangler, the Bronco's a lot more close to the 4Runner. And it's kind of like bridges the gap between Wrangler and 4Runner, because, you know, before it was like, okay, if you want, you know, kind of more luxe, then you go for the 4Runner. If you want more ruggedness, you go for the Wrangler. And the Bronco's like, we'll split the difference. We'll make a vehicle that is more luxe than a Wrangler, but not quite as boring as a 4Runner. It'll still be a convertible. So I think they did a lot to kind of make things nice. This is like the worst place to turn out of, by the way. It is just horrible, as you guys can see. And half of it's the drivers down here in Provo. Half of it's the drivers. So seats are comfortable in the Bronco. I think that's definitely a positive. Man, where are all these people coming from? This is crazy. Other than the seats, it's seems pretty well insulated, more insulated than a Wrangler. Good torque out of the engine. It's pretty comfortable with the suspension. It'll be interesting to see if the 4Runner is more or less comfortable. I think the biggest difference is more going to be just overall noise, rather than, because you're going to get a lot more wind noise with this. Being a convertible, it's just not as insulated, and then being basically a box, that's also going to just lead to more wind noise overall. It's got good power. It's got good low-end torque too. Yeah, quite a bit of tire noise and road noise and everything. We'll see how the 4Runner compares. I think the 4Runner is probably going to be quite a bit quieter. But this handles well. It definitely, though, still handles very truck-like. See if the 4Runner handles any better. Yeah, it still has quite a bit of body roll and all of that. It's not horrible, though. So, with that being said, let's go pop into the 4Runner. Well, let's start off in the 4Runner. I can tell you right off the bat, the seats are more comfortable. And definitely more sloped with the windshield. So it kind of just feels more like a crossover. I am like on the verge of sneezing, but it won't happen. Boy, oh boy, is it like making my brain go, ah! So, yeah, this is more comfortable. The Bronco drives more like a truck. This still, I mean, this is still truck-like, but it's definitely more comfortable with the ride. Definitely more car-like than the Bronco is. Yeah, and it's less noise. It handles a little bit better, actually, too. The power is not, it feels like it might be a little bit slower than the Bronco, but it's not a huge difference. Yeah, I think it does handle a little bit better. So, Bronco versus 4Runner. Basically, if you want more luxury, then yeah, you're going to go for the 4Runner. If you want kind of more of an experience, the Bronco's going to provide that, because convertible, boxy design, looks a little bit cooler. This is a little bit more mundane, but, you know, still does a lot of the truck stuff that the Bronco would be able to. I mean, the off-road, these Toyotas are actually really capable. People give them crap, but they do it really well. So it just depends on how, like, if you're okay with, if you want the cool boxy looks and the convertible stuff, you got to be okay with having slightly less comfort and more noise. And that's just kind of how it sits.